All right. Welcome everyone to Coach's Corner once again. Tonight we're going to kind of talk about kind of having fun at practice, or, we actually call this how fun can affect your training. Um, and so we're trying to stay on a little bit of fun. And let's we'll help to qualify what fun is. But we want to talk about bringing a little bit of that to practice and how it affects people, how it affects learning and those things. I had a couple of good conversations today, even with an old friend, and while I was doing some more research, and they helped a little bit. So I thought we'd share. But I am really looking forward to kind of hearing from folks out there about what they do to inject a little bit of fun, or what they do to help people have more fun at practice and what they've seen come out of it. Once again, if you come to private message me, or you can send something in the comments, and we'll pull you in, and you can talk about what you do at your practice. Big piece here is we're just trying to help folks think about what else they can do to make not only practice a little bit more fun, but also more education. So today we have Viscount Tristan, Sir Guillaume, and Sir Bess joining us. So I'm going to rely a lot on them a little bit, and we throw a variable in here of, if we get to a point where we can kind of cut off the show a little bit early, we're not going to stick to our hour and a half time frame, and we'll see how that goes. One of the comments made a couple of weeks ago was maybe shorten these up a little bit. We are trying to add some more shorter content. I have something else coming up this weekend, just to kind of push the show in a way that people want to watch it. So, all right, Tristan, let's talk about having fun. Is there stuff that you do? Let's qualify. What would you think qualifying having fun or using fun at your practice to help people learn?
That's an excellent question, and I was excited that we cover this topic because it made me reflect on how many times, whether it's in a martial arts class or whether it's an SCA fighting practice or even just going to do pickups, how often I noticed people are not having fun. And that is either people show up and they're just in I have to go to practice, because if I don't go to practice, I don't get better, but I really don't want to be here. I'd rather be home having a pizza. I'd rather be home watching a movie. I had a long day at work, and they come in with an attitude of, I'm just punching my time card, really. And things like that, as well as seeing it on the other side, where you have somebody who's very experienced. They come to practice and they come in and say, well, I'm going to tell everybody what they're doing wrong tonight, and I'm going to tell them how to do it right. And they come in with that kind of an attitude. This made me reflect upon what is the perfect relationship on both sides that makes the experience enjoyable and fun for both parties. And that is when the experienced person, the mentor, says, I just want to help other people. And I'm going to do everything I can to help anybody that wants help. And I'm going to listen to what they say. I'm going to figure out where they're at. And I'm going to give them the thing that they need to advance and be better tonight. They're going to walk out of this practice being able to do something they couldn't do before, and they know it. They understand it. And conversely, for the person that's learning, they come in not with the attitude of, well, I have to be here, or I'm not, or I suck, and everything I try just doesn't work. They don't have that attitude. They come in with, I'm going to learn something tonight. I'm going to give it my best. I'm going to try this out. I'm excited to put on armor. I'm excited to fight. I just want to learn something. Even if I learn one thing, I will be delighted. If you get two people that have those attitudes, the activities you decide to do take a back seat to those two attitudes meeting and creating a spark, which creates a fire. And if you have a group where everybody comes in with attitudes like that positive energy, I want to help other people, I want to learn myself, and I'm going to make that happen. That is the magic right there. That's the fire. If you don't have those attitudes, I don't care what activities you arrange. I don't care what exercises you do or what drills you start to do or what fight formats you try. It will fall flat. So as we couch this discussion, I would invite everybody to just make sure when you go to a practice, when you go to put your arm around, have the right spirit in your heart, not so much. Don't beat yourself up because you're not advancing as quickly as you'd like. Don't beat yourself up because you've had a long day or you've had to skip a couple of practices. Don't beat yourself up because, for whatever reason, you think you suck and you're not as good as you would like to be. That's your opportunity to take joy in the fact that this is your moment to get a little better. And that's exactly what you're there to do. That's how I would frame everything within our discussion tonight, is just have the right attitude, both as a teacher, as a mentor, and as a student.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring something up, and this one right here, first off, first on the field, last off the field, just because it's expected. If you want to advance, it sucks the joy out of fighting. And I think that's a great comment, unless that is your goal, right? I mean, I spent a lot of times like, tonight, my goal is endurance, and I'm going to put my helmet on. And then when I hit that goal, that's fun, right? So we have to qualify that working hard isn't always not fun, right?
But see, is hitting your goal fun or is it satisfying? Like, what are we talking about?
It's one and the same. Fun can be, right?
It can be. But I'm just thinking, as we talk about this, we need to be certain that we know what fun is. Is fun, I can have fun and I could be screwing around on the field, as I have been known to do, and I'm laughing like an idiot. I myself am also learning. I'm usually laughing when things go well because it makes me happy and I don't expect it. But that's the kind of thing that I think we have to sort of say, what is fun to each person? Because each person is going to have a different definition of fun. For example, some people don't let fun into their lives and won't do melees or wars. I'm just saying. So it's a different definition. Like, what is fun to me compared to what is fun for you, for example.
Yeah. And I think the big piece on that is that a coach or a trainer needs to make sure that they identify what is fun for an individual. So fun might be learning a shot, right? But learning shot takes time and effort. Now, if you just say, hey, go do this, and you walk away and there's no immediate feedback, then you're in a space that maybe you don't succeed, and that fun kind of goes away, and then you keep practicing it. You never feel good about it. Then you totally lose that fun, right? But if they're there and they're helping, it's like, hey, let's try this shot, and you're working through things, and you're there's that positive feedback that a coach can give to their person. And when they get to that point, they can execute, you celebrate it. That's fun for somebody. That will make them come back because they want more of that. That gets that endorphin build up right there, right? Yeah. Not that they didn't work hard, and they didn't have to laugh or joke anytime in that. Everybody wants to think fun is laughing and joking. It isn't, right? It isn't always that.
So I got to go then with fun. We're using fun tonight as satisfaction or a sense of achievement.
Well, and it's just one of many ways to develop fun, right? Because fun is defined in many different ways. One is that I had a lot of fun because I was able to go and fight all night without taking my helmet off, right? I had a lot of fun because I learned a new blow tonight and I was successful with it. I had a lot of fun tonight because my friends were there and we were laughing and we were engaged. I had a lot of fun tonight because, and these types of things can keep building. We know that we have to drill to do something. Most people are like, oh, drills are so boring, right? But again, if I have to wait, like this is an example I picked up today. And this is me, I'll apologize to everybody because I am producer tonight, and when I talk, I forget. So here we go. Fun is if you have to wait in line, you're going to like, okay, I'm a little bored. I'm going to think of something else to do. And then you're not going to want to do that thing. But if all of a sudden you're all doing it together, and then you have this group fun happening because you're all doing something together. It may be a drill, but at least you're doing it all. You're trying to get to the end of it, right? And it's easy. We're going to do this 10 times. Guess what? Hey, congratulations. You did it 10 times. Let's move on to the next thing.
So to build on that, I think you've touched on it a little bit, but what can be fun for a lot of people too is building that sense of community and involving everybody. And so when new people come in, they get to take part in that and get to be part of the group without necessarily being highly skilled. When they're being able to work on a drill or something specific, they get to be included in that. And so it's keeping everybody engaged. And so I think that really helps with that sense of inclusiveness. And Yalisha had posted it earlier as well. But one of the things that we do at Roaring Waste is at the end of fight practice, we get everybody together for a silly group photo. And that's another thing that is it building our skill? No, but it's something fun, and it's something that builds the community and helps everybody feel included and part of a group, and builds that sense of belonging for everybody. So I think that's really valuable as well.
Actually, one of the things I've been doing, not to even make practices fun, because fun comes after welcoming, is to make a point of saying hello to every person that comes to practice. And, I'm old, my glasses come off, I can't see across the gym. I feel stupid going, oh, wait, I've known you for 30 years. But I will walk up now and introduce myself and just say hi and welcome to anybody who walks in, well, in our case, the gym. Before, I might not have done that, but actually, it's one of the things that I picked up, Brannos, from you, probably from here on Coach's Corner, and from when I come down to Detroit for practices. People say hi, and that is just a sense of welcoming, as opposed to I went in and nobody talked to me. Something as little as, like, even if it's not fun, at least it's welcoming, and welcoming is one of the first things in making you want to go to practice, to enjoy going to practice. Hey, they like me. They notice what we're doing. One of the things we're doing here that is actually gets people talking is Duke Edward, like you guys do. You report on who is your practices. Duke Edward does that up here, but now he keeps streaks. So armored practice will be like Lord Mateus is one of our lunatics who will be like 43 weeks in a row and only misses it because he goes to Gulf War. We'll do that
Right.
for fighting, and it's like the photo. We do it for both fighting and fencing. Fighting was somebody holds the streak, and then people have fun, and then Matthias says something like, oh, I can't make it, and we're all like, oh no, Matthias, you're going to lose the streak, and what's going to happen? But I think it's a way of making people feel seen, feel welcome, and just when people like when you're at a practice and notice if you're there, that's part of that community. It's part of the sense of welcoming and of fun, or at least satisfaction. Hey, they noticed I was here tonight.
Well, I can't agree more. I mean, the idea of taking a picture and being, could be, hey, I'm proud of myself because I made this many practices, or I didn't miss practices. There's all of these things that bring enjoyment to the reason why you do something. And I think that's what we're talking about, fun. So I think we're covering a lot here in that, we can talk about, different ways people see fun, and we're probably going to talk about more of them. But I think the next piece is, what happens when you're not having fun or you're not engaged in practice? Guillaume, you probably, take a day that is just like, hey, this ain't my day. And, and you just weren't having fun at practice. Although I don't think you have too many days like that lately.
Yeah, so let me start off by saying there are plenty of days where I get up and I do not want to go to practice. and I'm not motivated. I'm not really feeling up to it. But I can't think of any instance where I've ever gone to practice and regretted it. Anytime, no matter how much I didn't want to go, by the time practice was done, I was glad I went. Yeah. That said, there are times that I struggle at practice. There are times where things are not going well. I'm working on something. Maybe 2 months ago, we were doing some practice and I had too much tension through my shoulders, and I'm trying to fight, and I can feel that I'm trying to throw through the tension and things just weren't working. And what I've had to do is be able to be analytical about that and understand what I'm working on, understand when things aren't working right, and accept that and try to adjust to correct that problem. And so for me, I try to avoid that frustration of things not working by always looking at it as something to be able to be worked at, as opposed to something that's gone wrong and things are going off the rails. I look at it as, okay, this is wrong. What can I do to try and correct it? And how can I work through this? How can I approach this differently to be able to do it? Sometimes it's change a weapons form, do something with a different weapons form. Sometimes it's switching to offhand work. There are plenty of other things you can do to reset your mind frame to be able to go back at it. But that's difficult. I think we don't necessarily do a lot of coaching of that when we see other people struggling, when we see the people that we're working with struggling. I see that more as something that I do personally. And as I'm doing more coaching, it's something I need to be aware of and try and branch out with and make recommendations to the people that I'm training with to try and give them some additional options to be able to still find some success, even if they're struggling with something. I think one of the other aspects that we're able to bring in is finding ways of making the fighting fun and engaging and keeping people involved. And this is a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. Part of it is work. Part of it is trying to work at being successful and work at developing our skill set and becoming better fighters. But at the end of the day, we do this because it's fun. And that's the reason we put on the armor and go out and swing and get hit and hit our friends. And it is, we've got a bonding experience of the fighting that goes on, and we're trying to improve, but we want it to be fun through that process. And so somebody had mentioned, you posted it earlier about the first on the field, last off the field. And that's fine if that's what you're trying to do for a specific purpose, but don't feel obligated to do that because you're being watched or you think you're being watched. You have to make sure that you're doing that for you, not for somebody else. And yeah,
can I bring a point up at this? Did you have fun at Crown last weekend?
I never really thought.
I mean, this is exactly the place we're talking about it, right? If you feel like you have to go fight in Crown.
So through the process, I did not think about this is fun at any point in it, but I also didn't think this isn't fun. I was focused on the fighting. I was focused on what was going on. I had fun there. I had fun when His Highness Gan was doing his introduction and had a nice song that he put together for Her Highness, and everybody was laughing with that. It was sort of a humorous filk song of describing a Lance Connect jacket, and we all had a good laugh with that, and we were all enjoying the moment when Mattias was playing a song for his part of our Crown requirements were an A&S entry, and if it was something that was a performing art, you had to perform it during the processional. And so he composed a song that he played, and so we were all involved in that. And so there were moments that were absolutely fun, and being there and being amongst the people, being through that process of helping ensure that the line of the kingdom is secured and that the heirs are selected, in and of itself is fun in a general sense. But throughout the day, throughout the tournament, I was focused on the fighting. I was focused on the next fight and focused on the fight I was working on when I was in a fight, and not really thinking about, is this fun? Is this not fun? When I look back on it, I enjoyed the experience, but through the experience, I wasn't, yay, this is fun. But yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes I think the key there is stress, right? Because in that type of big fight, you have lots of stress. You got a lot of expectation. You know, there's a lot of things in there that can cause it to, again, we are saying fun here. I am saying that these are pieces that other people relate to not being fun. Stress is not fun, right? You know, unless maybe it's the stress of doing something you love. Maybe it is fun, you know, but stress usually isn't fun. And, you know, expectation of winning or anything like that, not fun, right? So Bess, you had something there for a second.
Well, I wanted to ask Guillaume two questions because you raised issues, frankly, about mental health, but directly about Crown. You were super at Crown, like, you know, what with being a finalist and all. If we equate fun with a rather than a sense of satisfying joy, were you getting a sense of satisfaction or accomplishment throughout the day?
It's difficult to say. I think after the fact, yes. I'm happy with how I fought with Crown. There are things that I know that I could have done better, and I'm able to look back on those. I try to compartmentalize that while I'm fighting and put away thoughts about anything other than the specific fight that I'm in and the specific thing that I'm working on. And so it's I've watched a lot of videos and done a lot of reading, a lot of studying about focus and trying to be focused in the moment and not thinking. There's a term that was used in some of the videos that I'd watched, time traveling. You don't want to be time traveling when you're fighting. You don't want to be thinking about the fight that you just had. That's in the past. It's done. You don't want to be thinking about the fight that comes next or what the outcome of the tournament is going to be. That's the future. You want to be in the moment and you want to be in the fight that you're in. And so I don't really think about it in terms of fun or not fun because I'm focused on executing the fight and trying to best my opponent with the techniques and skills that I have at that moment. And so the idea of fun doesn't really come into it, and satisfaction really only comes in reflection after the fact. It's not in the moment. There's not really much sense of satisfaction, because as soon as that fight is done, it's on to the next fight. And so it's something I've worked very hard on, and I still feel like I've got a ways to go on being able to keep that focus, to be able to be where it needs to be able to have that level of success. But I'm pretty happy with the level of focus I was able to bring to Crown, and being engaged in those fights and not letting my mind wander onto different things. So was it an enjoyable experience? Yes. Do I feel like I was able to achieve what I wanted to? Well, I would have liked to have won the tournament.
Sure.
But I mean, that
You came
aside,
close.
yeah, I mean, it came down to the last set of fights. But and His Highness Gan is a tremendous fighter. He was fighting extremely well, and he's a very, very challenging fight that day. And so I can't be disappointed in having lost to him, because he absolutely earned it.
Okay.
But absolutely, looking back on it, yes, it was an enjoyable experience. I was very happy to be able to participate in it and be able to be part of it. And I think there was a very high degree of camaraderie. Everybody was fighting very honorably, and I thought, all in all, it was a tremendous Crown tournament for the behavior and the way that everyone fought throughout the tournament. I was glad to be able to be part of it.
Okay, so the other thing that you were talking about was when you have a lousy day, you go to practice and you were trying to fight through tension. And we talked earlier about feeling sort of mentally alone when you're having a hard day, that kind of thing. Doesn't that sort of tie in quite seriously to mental health? We're also shy to say, oh, I feel bad because of X, Y, or Z, or I'm having a really tough time today, because especially you guys tend to have, you older gentlemen of a certain age grew up in a time where you didn't necessarily but seriously, right? You didn't talk about your feelings. And even still, it seems like the only time you're allowed to have an emotion, generally when it seems to be the only acceptable time to have emotion is if you win, you get to celebrate your loss. And if you lose, you get to be disappointed or upset. But to say I'm having a rough day, something I have not talked about on Coach's Corner is, or really told anybody, so surprise, I'll be going in for some pretty big surgery at some point in the future. But until that happens, I suck. And that's okay. Like, I know there's reasons for it. I'm working around it. But I recently told a squire brother of mine, I said, here's a thing. We're going to have a chivalry meeting at a big practice, and I feel stupid as a knight going to a practice where if I go, I can fight for 5 or 10 minutes because of the thing. And he said to me, Bess, when you get there, if somebody says, Bess, why aren't you fighting? Because knights get a lot of pressure to fight. Like, why aren't you on the field and why are you doing this? I think possibly more, or possibly at least I feel it more than perhaps the unbelted fighters do. And I don't particularly like to advertise the fact that, say, I'm hurt. I don't know why. I'm embarrassed about it. I don't know why. I shouldn't be. It's not like I did something stupid, but I'm embarrassed that I'm hurt again. And one of the things he said to me, I finally told him, and he said to me, well, Bess, if people give you grief, you say, I am fighting as much as I can right now. And I'm like, well, shit, I wish I had shared this with him about 8 months ago, because I could have said that at practices all along and felt a whole lot better mentally. So how does that tie in, like 3 gentlemen here of a certain age?
So you were asking me, and so I'll answer first in that I find communication is important in all things, and so many of the problems that we face in so many aspects of our lives come down to poor communication. And so if you're struggling, own it and share it. And there's nothing wrong with being honest about who you are, where you are, and what you're dealing with. Leading up to Crown, we had an event brawl in the fall, and then we had Coronation. And I didn't fight at either event. And I didn't fight at either event because I've been dealing with tendonitis in my left arm. And so I was trying to rest it so that I wasn't as bad of shape as I might be at Crown if I had gone and fought. And so I didn't fight in those events, but I contributed in other ways. And I'm not trying to hide why I'm not fighting or anything else like that, I'm happy to share that with people. And I understand that not everybody is comfortable with that, but for me, that's one of the things that helps me deal with some of that stuff. Is if I'm struggling with something, especially technique wise, if I'm struggling with a technique, being honest with it with the people at practice helps me find ways through it, either through what I've done myself or whatever someone else might suggest to be able to work through it.
I think Tristan had something he wanted to bring up.
Yeah, and this comes down, I guess, to the overall theme of the fun, and that is I've heard from a number of people that were surprise wins for crowns and cornet tournaments. Like they were not favored to win, they were not top, picks. They weren't. Nobody predicted they would win, and they walked through the tourney. And almost everyone to a person said, "I just came here to have fun today. I didn't have any pressure to win. I wasn't, all up in my head. I didn't wind myself into knots about it. I came, I got my armor inspected, I did some warm-ups. I'm gonna go out and have a good day." And because they lack that incredible stress that people put on themselves to perform, they perform much better. Now, does every person that go into a crown tournament that has that attitude go to the finals or win? No, of course not. But how many people in a crown or cornet or royalist or any list where somebody says, "I want to do good today," they wind up being their own worst enemy because of the tension, the lack of just go out and enjoy yourself, be fluid, and we could have a whole episode on what it's like to be on the mental edge of being ready, prepared, but relaxed. But if you take the fun away and you say, "I'm serious now, this is go time, I got to frickin' do it." You put yourself in that mindset. And now, just like Guillaume described a minute ago, you are now fighting through the tension of your own body and of your own mind in order to perform. So although you're being all on the edge and being better, and what you're doing is you're fighting yourself. And I'll tell you, and I'm sure you guys can all experience the same thing. When you walk on the field and you see your opponent fighting their own mind, you can just kind of relax and just go ahead, buddy. The longer that fight goes, the more that your opponent is screwing himself in the head. And didn't Napoleon say, never interrupt an opponent when he's in the middle of making a mistake?
Yes.
The exact thing holds true. If you see that your opponent is a mental case, just let him cook. Let that fight go on. You can kind of drag your feet and then start having fun. Because why not? Be the one who's the most relaxed in that fight. And I wanted to add this one too, in terms of practice, because this comes back to all right, I'm having a bad practice. Whatever it is I wanted to get out of this, I'm not getting it. I think that I'm performing worse tonight than I ever have. When you start doing that, yes, absolutely. Do things like shift to a different weapon style, or go and change what you want to do, change your victory condition, as Bess would say, or Rongwald. But the more you go along and the more experience you get, you might have that in the middle of a fight in a high stakes tournament. You might have to turn that around in about 4 seconds, not 2 weeks or an hour. You might not have the chance to go switch weapons forms. You might have to say, all right, I need to relax. I need to calm down. I need to get on, start turning down. Practice is a time to practice getting your mind together when it's asunder, when things aren't going your way. Figure out, okay, what do I need to do to get back relaxed? And a lot of times it comes down to this one crucial thing: just take a deep breath, step back, and get a bunch of air in your lungs. There was a speaker, Eric Admides, and he goes around and he talks about how to give presentations. And most everybody has got a very high level of anxiety when it comes to speaking in front of large crowds. And what he noticed with a lot of people is they say, I like taking a smoke before I go out on stage. They like smoking. And he found this study they found that it's not the cigarette that relaxes people. It's taking a big, deep breath, even though there's smoke in it, and inhaling and exhaling. And he said, you can get the same effect if you don't smoke. Just take a quiet moment, breathe really deep a couple of times, get that oxygen and get your brain more oxygenated, and you will have the same effect of relaxing and calming down. And it only takes you a few seconds to do it. So learn to manage your fun and your relaxation level. And that's something that you can do when practice is going wrong. You want it to go right. You want to have a great time, want to have fun. If you're a little nervous or you're tired, take a few deep breaths and say, how am I going to have some fun tonight? I'm going to go enjoy myself. And
what about embracing the suck? Because sometimes I have terrible nights and I'm just like, tonight I'm going to practice having a terrible night and mentally dealing with having a terrible night. Sometimes you just got to say, at least I do it. I just say, I'm going to embrace the suck. And somehow by not fighting my negative emotions, at the very least, it brings it up to neutral. Do you know what I mean? At the very least, if I just go, wow, tonight's going to be a sucky night, I just accept that for whatever reason, my socks are bunching up, I got a headache, I don't know. It's just going to be an awful night. And I just kind of run with that.
So I think that's one of the things that you look at by embracing the suck and letting everybody know that you're embracing the suck when you're embracing the suck is you're bringing some fun and levity to it as well of, oh, well, I'm having an off night, so, oh, well, let's just go with it anyway. And that type of happy-go-lucky attitude about it can improve other people's attitude because they can sort of take some of that on and see how you're approaching things and think, maybe I don't need to be frustrated when I have a bad night because look at what Bess is doing. Look at how Bess handles it. And so that could be a good example for others of how to be able to still have fun even when you're struggling and you're unhappy with how you're performing.
So let me ask you a question, Tristan, as you were talking. So is tonight's show actually about adding fun to fight practice, or is it really about subtracting the negative emotions from fight practice?
I think it's all about those. It's about all of those things, okay. Right? It's about how we get to the place where we can get past the negative. When we go into practice, I don't want to be, and I see way too many people do this. I don't want to be thinking about how bad work was today. I don't want to think about, I got to fix my car and I got 3 million things to do on my house, right? Because you're starting on a negative. If you start on a negative, there's no good emotions to match good learning with. When you match learning, something that you learn, to a good emotion, it sticks with you longer. So, that's the piece that we have to think about is, so tonight what we're trying to do is help people understand what pieces those are. For coaches, we're trying to help them understand how to help people get past maybe that negativity. Because I'm going to tell you, I've told a number of people, I'm like, when you're done being negative, I'd be more than happy to help. Right? And it sounds stupid, but what I'm saying is you can't, and I don't say it quite that way, but it's like you can't live in the negative. And in fact, every major book I read about being peak performance, first thing they say is get negative people out of your life. Because you can't continue if they're bogging you down. So that's something to think on both sides. I mean, believe me, I lived through lots of depression and I know what negativity can be. But, if you really, when you go to practice, leave all that shit behind and go there with a positive attitude of, I am going to learn this thing tonight because I talked to my trainer, because we communicated, because we have a plan and I'm on the plan, right? I am doing the thing that I really enjoy because it's my hobby. I'm taking time out to do it. And I'm going to try to hit those small goals, a small goal tonight, or maybe a couple small goals to get to the point where I enjoy practice or have fun, right?
So one of the things that I think is sort of a thread through everything we've talked about so far is when you're having fun, you're going to be more relaxed. When you're going to be more relaxed, you're not as stressed, you're not carrying as much tension, you're going to be more successful. And so finding ways to be able to leave that negativity aside and finding ways to have a more positive outlook, have some fun, have some levity is going to lead to better performance. It's going to lead to being able to be more successful in what it is that you're doing. It's kind of a feedback loop of if you're having a bad day and you're down about having a bad day and then you're not performing well, so you're down about not performing well, so you perform worse. And so finding ways to have fun is a good way of breaking out of that loop and being able to start a positive feedback loop instead of having fun and being relaxed and being successful, and that success making you have a more positive outlook on your fighting. And so it is really good to be able to inject that fun and inject that levity to try and break people out of that negative loop and come into a positive loop of being able to have that success.
Hey, on for coach, that means what they have to do is they have to focus on what is that person's goal and success piece. There have been times where I've focused and really you have to be careful how many things you're trying to add, because you add too many things and you don't get any of them. But I've done this with Cy. We've worked on a throw, we worked on a throw, and then I push into the next throw and it becomes terrible. She gets negative. So what I do is I loop back to the previous one where it was a positive experience, so that you leave them in a positive experience, so that resonates that fun when they leave practice and it stays with them. That's one method. Another method, and we've talked about this story many times, and it's not only Wrongvalder, but it's many people I've actually done this with now. And that is, I'm like, okay, I'm glad you did, you can keep naming all the things you did wrong at practice. Tell me three things you did right. Right? That's the snowball effect.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, it's a survival instinct, right? Like just to stay alive, don't pat that cute looking wolf, don't eat that mushroom, and don't touch the snake. So we focus on the negatives, we focus on the things, and like we're hardwired to do that. The good stuff, I think we brush to one side. Like if you do something and it's easy, you're like, well, that doesn't count because it's easy. Well, yeah, it frickin' counts. Yeah. And I actually think Brannos' suggestion is so good. I stole it for my own sire who's coming back to fighting. And I've been super impressed with how she's been doing. And I said to her, when you go home tonight, would you please write down 3 things that you think you did well? And what she doesn't know is I'm writing 3 things that I thought she did well.
Yes.
And so that after a while, we'll be able to compare them. Well, you notice these 3 things, but I notice these 3 things. And if they're different, well, shit, that's 6 good things. That's a half a dozen good things. That's a lot of good things at a practice if you can point to, especially from somebody, who like she is, who's just learning or relearning, coming back after, having a daughter and taking some time off. So surprise, Bridge, I'm doing it too now for you. I think that's a really good thing. It helps you. It requires that you focus on the positive, as opposed to, like, of course we have to work on the things that, or focus on the things that don't work. Like, okay, I'm not blocking. I should probably move my shield, and I should think about that, but not dwell on the fact that I suck, that I don't block my head 4 times. How about the good thing is that you notice that this person always hits you in the head on an offside when you're in this zone. Well, what a great thing to notice. And people go, I noticed when he killed me. No. You noticed in this space at that time, this thing was happening. And that's situational awareness. And you should be proud that you noticed it. Yes, what a shame that you died 4 times before you picked up on it. But now, will there be a 5th time? Will there be a 6th time? Maybe. You know why? Because now you're saying, if I go into that zone and I try this block, will it work? Nope, I died that time. Okay, what about this block? Nope, died that time. Okay, what about this? Yes. And so, well, great, it took me 7 times to learn how to block that. But no, it didn't. You recognized it. You tried to block. You eliminated something that didn't work. You tried something else. You eliminated that didn't work. And then you found something. That's terrific. And that's what you should be looking at. I think people focus on just, did I, win? Am I the king or queen at practice? Yeah. That's the wrong thing to be focusing on if you're looking at how, like, bringing in the fun and focusing on the positive. You look at what you are doing right, because I guarantee every single person here tonight has done something either at work or driving the car or buying groceries. Like, oh shit, I forgot the eggs. But you remembered 99 other things. And that's really super terrific. And people sit there and they don't remember how super terrific they were, that they remembered 99 things, and they beat themselves up that they forgot some frickin' eggs. And you know what? You're not even having eggs for dinner tonight. You can pick it up tomorrow. It's not the end of the frickin' world.
All right, we're going to go and we're going to kind of jump back here a little bit, because there were a couple of questions, and I wanted to pick a couple of these up, and they're pretty far in the back here, but let's see what I got. Where's that first one? One comment that was made, and I just want to bring it up, and Sven, who's won a few crowns, he says, I rarely have fun at Crown. It's usually business and, business like, hey, this is my job. And this is kind of what you're talking about, Guillaume, is you went there. But, in a way, it would not have been fun if he was not in that zone, right?
Yep.
So he got into his zone. This is business. I'm going to put it in. This guy's on my field. Get him off. This guy's on my field. Get him off. Right?
Yeah.
This is so, execution becomes, that's fun because, that leads into the fun of, hey, I'm in the place where I need to be. I'm being successful in that place. And I'm just moving forward until you get to the end. And then you get a year of not having fun. To quote
a Duke I know, winning is fun too.
Yeah, winning is fun too. I used to say that a lot. Here's one, and actually, Tristan, you were talking, and I thought you kind of covered a little bit of this. But does that mean that in order to excel and perform at the highest levels, do you need to turn fun off? And I think, you covered a little bit of this in what you're saying, and that is definition of fun, right?
Right.
And I think that was the key. My fun is, if your fun is laughter, although, Bess says she laughs when she wins and stuff like that. So she's having fun in it and showing it in a different way. But I can be totally in the zone and I won't wake up until after the tournament's practically done. So, but, in the end, if you had asked me if I had a fun day, yeah, I had a fun day. Now, if I would have totally sucked and I didn't do the things I know I could do, then I'd probably say, no, it wasn't a fun day, not because of other people, but because of myself.
And that's the thing about fun and going into a high competition environment. That high competition environment, a competitor doesn't get access to that all the time. At your own practice, you're not fighting. You don't have the same level of competition that you do in a crown as you do in a crown tournament. So for those people that like honing themselves to a fine edge to perform in that environment, that's like getting chocolate cake on their birthday. Like they've been waiting for it. They don't get it every day, but boy, it's birthday time. And now it's time to go put into practice what they have been training themselves to do. It is a treat. And granted, not everybody's built that way. Some people have a distaste for that level of competition because of all the emotions it can stir up in you. It can ding your ego. It can, hit you in the, make you humble when you thought you were all that in a bag of chips. But what I've found, healthy competitors will not allow their ego to run completely away with them. They enjoy the feedback. And I remember talking with Sean about this. We had episodes at the beginning of Coach's Corner where we talked about the cycle, and going into that environment is part of the training cycle. That is where you get your feedback, you get your task list of, okay, what didn't go right? What do I need to go back into the training cycle and work on again? Because you get that feedback and you enjoy having your task list of saying, here's my deficiencies, here's what I need to go fix. Now I can energetically go into my training. I've got a structure of things I need to address, and I'm going to go address them. And that whole cycle and process can be fun if you also realize that at the end of the day, it is your improvement that is enjoyable. Seeing yourself get better and being able to perform better in those highly competitive environments against high caliber opponents is very enjoyable. And, I've seen people and even fallen into this, in the past of enjoying fighting somebody that's not quite my skill level because it was easy. And what I found was that was a very shallow viewpoint and perspective.
Yeah. And it's really, in the end,
it's like you run out very quickly. And although you may savor that for a moment, in about 10 seconds, when you walk off, you go, okay, that was not very satisfying. Then as I grew and learned, and I got into fighting people that were of higher caliber, higher skill level than me, and I trained, and I was, getting beat by them, and then suddenly I started prevailing, that was truly satisfying. Like that was the real thing. And, not to say that I felt like there was an ego thing. It wasn't a personality thing. It was just I was being overwhelmed by this opponent, and I trained and I got better, and I'm not being overwhelmed anymore. Like, that was tremendously satisfying. So would I call that fun? Absolutely, it was fun. You know, when you take this terrifying opponent and turn it around so that you are no longer frightened of them and that you can handle what they've got, at least for the moment. You know, you never know what'll happen in 6 months. They get better too. Maybe they didn't like getting beat. And so they're going to go and train themselves up not to fall for that twice. But that's all part of that process. And I found that some of those people that I was competing against became my very best friends because we were both sharpening ourselves for the other one. And, you know, that I had great fun with. And it went far beyond just, you know, what's my movement, what's my blocking, what's my attack, the tactics. It became far more than that. And it was more of a deep friendship, if you'd call it that.
So I'm gonna just there was another comment here that I just want to touch base on, and that is having a community that supports an improvement by pointing to the good and the needs of improvement helps drive gains and the joy of improving postmortem conversations, bringing this out. So that
Absolutely.
that nailed it. You know, that nails it in a lot of the conversation around. Now I'm looking through some tennis, double NCAA tennis conversations, and there's some very good forums out there for it. And I had a list of some things like on the coaching side. You know, they talk about. And actually, Yulisha brings this up later, and that is, you know, maybe in this one here, good exercise could be have the fighter analyze and verbally define what they find fun about fighting, right? And I think that's the piece where, you know, one of the first things they talk about coaching is a long-term comprehensive vision of the type of player you want to be or a type of fighter or that you want to be. If you don't know it, if you don't know what kind of style they want to use and all of these other things, then maybe you're not driving them to the fun they want, right? I want to fight greatsword. Okay, well, now if I force you to fight something you don't want to fight, sword and shield, it's going to be a hard time to go find that fun, isn't it? Is that person going to keep coming back to practice if they're not finding fun? So I think some of that, and Yulisha brought it up, and that is, you know, again, get the vision of what that person wants, you know, and then set up a plan. And they actually even had a chart to set up a plan. And it was, I found all of these things, you know, very interesting because some of them also included develop techniques, you know, develop emotional philosophy and approach with the player. So how do they handle their emotional abilities? We're included right here, right now. How do they keep making it fun? How do they get out of negativity? How do they get out of a bad day? Those are all pieces that somebody who's helping you, a coach or a trainer, can help you get past. But you have to help them understand how to do that. Scheduling, you know, making sure they stay on a schedule. Physical development. That means outside of tournament, you know, outside of just fighting each other. There's that physical development of building core, building footwork, building, you know, strength, all of those, that's physical development. And then goal setting, help them goal set. Make sure that, okay, you named a goal. That's about a medium-sized goal. How about we hit all of these lower goals that will feed that medium-sized goal? All right? That hopefully feeds the longer goal you have after that. But if we don't know what those are, we can't build that routine, right? So I think that's something for coaches to think about. And then, you know, there's a whole player set here that of mental skills I'll go through in a little bit. But I think the big part of this comes down again, and somebody said it early in the show, and that is communication and that continual communication. Probably the harder part I find in the SCA is how does that relationship built? And this is kind of funny because Barry is actually working on a show, and I think Sean's going to come for it, and that is how do you select your night? You know, how do you become a squire? How do you pick the right night? And I think that's going to be a great show. And this is an example. If some of these things are the things you're thinking about that you want, then maybe those things are the things you should be able to make sure that night understands that that's what you want.
So I think, Brannos, you sort of led the conversation to a question Bess asked in our chat. What if a fighter is at practice and doesn't have a coach and doesn't have a trainer? What do they do to be able to try to find that and find the fun if they don't have someone that they're working with to be able to train them and to act as a coach for them?
And I think we see that in a lot of places. I found it a lot in martial arts personally, back when I trained, and because a lot of instructors just go in and instruct, and they're like, okay, you're going to do all these things. I got my exercise in. Let's move on. And so you don't have a plan. They show you techniques, and then they work you through the belt system, but there's more. And, the good part is Tristan talked about a lot of that, he even brought some personal experiences from his students, and that, you have to recognize when somebody's struggling. You have to lift them when they're down. You have to build goals. And then sometimes you have to show them that, no, you actually did that goal, right? You did the thing I asked you to do, because they don't even recognize it. And I think that's, but there are a lot of, in martial arts, there's a lot that you just get fed. So internally, what I found is I had to set my own goals. So the more we understand the pieces a coach would normally give you, the more you can just be your own coach.
Yeah, and to build on that, I think there's a lot of resources out there for people to be their own coach, to be able to set their own goals, learn how to do that. There are plenty of YouTube videos about coaching and about different skills that you may want to develop. Coach's Corner has a discussion forum, which is a great resource for people to be able to connect with other people that may be able to give them coaching, even if they're not at that practice. I know we've talked before about people doing film review, and I don't know if that's still going on, but I know there was discussion about that before. And I'm sure if somebody posted a video and said, hey, watch my video and give me some feedback, I'm sure plenty of people would be happy to be able to give them some coaching on that. And so if you find that you're at a practice where there isn't a lot of high-level fighters, that you can't work with them directly while you're at your practice, reach out through these other resources to be able to find help, to be able to get that development and get that coaching. And as Brannos said, set your own goals, learn what goals you want to set, and find ways that you can bring fun into your fight practice as well, and be able to encourage the people around you. And what you may find is that if there's no one that is doing the instruction or coaching at your fight practice, you may be that coach. You may learn how to do that, and you may be able to bring everybody else along.
Mm-hmm. One thing I'd like to add.
I'm going to bring up a couple. Do you mind? I'm going to bring up a couple of things that maybe you can help talk about these, Tristan.
Sure.
So the first one is, and you probably, you're a great person for this, because with the training you do, what is the reality? They really don't know what's bringing them fun for that day. Sometimes it's just a blank slate. So as a coach, you're not sure. You're like, are they having fun? Or you can see them really struggling and not having fun. What would you do with a student like that?
Yeah, and this actually plays in exactly to what I was going to bring up, and that was, as a coach, if your expectation is you meet a total stranger and you're going to coach them in that moment, you're gonna have a tough time unless you can really read them and almost psychoanalyze the problem that they're having. But I'll tell you, as you build a coach relationship with somebody, you get to know them more, and it's much easier to spot when they're off. It's easy to spot how far off they are in terms of emotion or attitude, or whether they're down. You can read them much easier. And you can often get a handle on what's causing their struggling, what is causing their problem. And normally you'd think, well, if this is the first time I'm working with somebody, let's say just today, Tristan, I need you to help coach me. I'm going to go fight. I don't want you to watch and tell me what I'm doing wrong or what's going on. And I see them struggling. If I know them, if I don't know them, I'll have to ask them, well, okay, you appear to be in kind of a weird place here. Something's not right. What's going on? And they might hesitate to say, well, my house just got foreclosed on yesterday, or my wife just sued me for divorce yesterday or this afternoon, or my dog just got run over by a car. They might not just want to blurt out that kind of personal thing, but all those things are very, very heavy, that can weigh on them. So as a coach, you kind of have to be sensitive to the fact that they could be dealing with something really heavy duty. And the heavy duty might even be just, I freaking suck. I'm awful. Everything I've done in the last 6 months I've gone backwards. I sucked when I started, and now I give new definition of the term suck, and I'm frustrated. Everything I tried does not make me any better. In fact, it's making me worse. And they're right at that point of just blowing like Mount Vesuvius, right? And you're standing there saying, okay, I want to help. So realize that could be happening. Don't assume that it is, but try to make whatever it is you're going to propose to them in a small edible chunk. Don't try to solve all of their world's problems in that moment. If you can, try to encourage them, okay, set down what you've got going. And even if you can't, just at least try. Let's focus on one specific thing, one small thing, and that's all we're going to do. Yep. What you're going to do by coaching that way is to get them used to putting down all the baggage, no matter how big that bag is or how heavy it is. Even if it's just a little bit, even a little bit of baggage can be a stumbling block that can inhibit their performance. Just get them used to, okay, just let's set that aside. Think about that after you take your armor off. But for this moment, we're right here, right now. And I've had this on the mat with, students in my Aikido classes. I can tell when they walk in the door frustrated because I get to know them, right? I know how they walk, how they hold their shoulders, how they hold their head, where their eyes look, all that stuff. And the interesting thing, when I shifted from SCA fighting into martial arts training, all of this, the ritual stuff that I did to dump my baggage, which in SCA was, I'm now taking my armor out of the bag and I'm putting my armor on. That was my, 10-minute process of shedding off the baggage, saying, I don't care how bad today was. I don't care how bad this week was. I'm now focusing on the thing at hand, and that is what I'm about to do. And when I shifted, it was putting on my gi, tying my belt, bowing onto the floor, doing my warm-ups. That was my ritual to purge myself of all of the mental baggage and say, okay, what am I here to do right now? What am I working on? And to answer the question of those people that don't have a coach or don't have an instructor to say, okay, here, I need you to work on this thing and that thing and the other thing. You have to at least try to say, all right, I'm not going to try to solve all of my fighting problems tonight. That's just way too big of a task. I'm just going to focus on these two things I'd really like to be able to do. One is I'm sick of getting one-shotted by, A, B, and C, and I'm going to figure out how not to get one-shotted. That's my task tonight. And you can be creative with that, or you say, there's a shot that a friend of mine throws. They do it really well, and I want to learn how to do it. So I'm going to try to just work on that. Just make it those edible chunks that are attainable, that are achievable.
So and I like this. This is this comes right on what you bring up, and that is, Christian talks about he's still a novice fencer and just strapped on a kit and tried some heavy, and whoever basically, but he loves when his opponents ask, "What did you do there?" That was an excellent shot, because they get to work on it. And again, maybe you don't have a coach, but you may have a friend, or you at least have an opportunity to work with somebody else. Ask them. It's like, wow, that's a great shot. What did you do there? Well, first thing you do is you give a positive reinforcement to what somebody just did. Mm-hmm. And you get the second piece is you get a great chance to develop a conversation. And that's fun, right?
You know what, Tristan, you said something really smart. And I think,
oh no.
But I think not enough people realize what the smart thing was that you said, or maybe I'll do, in which case apparently I'm the only unsmart one. One of the things you said was, I've been fighting for like 6 months and I'm still not any better. And then you feel depressed. And I actually think that and experienced fighters get that same way. I think as you become a better and better fighter, you still have just as many issues, but they become smaller and smaller and more refined. And perhaps you are not acknowledging your successes as you go. So, like if you got a new kid straps on armor, they barely move their shield to block, right? And then they start to move their shield and they miss by a mile because they can't judge it. And eventually, you're just kind of, you get there and like you twitch your hands and your shield just moves that little couple of inches. You're not really doing much. And as you get better, you refine everything, but you're still thinking, oh crap, I only moved my shield half an inch. I should have moved it 2 inches. I suck. I can't even block right. But I think that the focus on I still have just as many issues is not acknowledging just how far you have come. As a novice fighter, you couldn't even block. You couldn't hold your shield for 30 seconds, right? And now you're out there on the field, you got 1,000 blows and you've blocked 100 shots and you don't block the 101st. And you're like, oh, I suck. I can't even block 101 shots. Dude, 6 months ago, you couldn't even block one freaking shot. And I think y'all got to remember, as you get better, you're going to have just as many issues, like when you look at the very finest athletes, they're like, oh, if I switch the rubber membrane on my shoes from 1 millimeter to 0.7856 millimeters, then I run faster. Really? You're supposed to wear shoes? Like, so this is what you go, and people don't realize how good they are. And if fun is a sense of satisfaction and a sense of progression and a sense of improving, then stop and take a look at where you were 6 months ago and you could be like, holy crap, look at me, I'm terrific.
So I think right here is exactly what you're talking about is
yes.
I get video. And I tell you the truth, this is a normal process that actually people use all the time. I love my stuff's falling off my wall as we're going on here. It's really, it's a normal process. People look at it. It's like, okay, what was I doing? What am I doing now? And sometimes it's because maybe something degrades and you want to see the difference, or you want to see if you have improved. And this is the only way you could see is look back at what you did before. So I think this, Chris is 100% right on that. The other piece is Rungolder pointed out something. And this is one of the pieces, and there's a second part of this is another one of these pieces I read and looked at myself a little bit as I read it. And that is, point out the successes and before the criticisms. And because a lot of times we just want to tell them what they did wrong. So if you just constantly tell somebody what they did wrong, do you ever get a chance to hear what you did right? Is that positive? Because I'm going to tell you, it is very hard to teach people in a negative mode. Much easier to teach them in a positive mode. And one of the things they said is with criticism, most of the times those people already know what they did right and what they did wrong. So you don't even need to add the criticism in there unless they ask sometimes. And
there's also a practical reason to point out the positive, and that is if somebody, let's say somebody that has very good footwork and they approach their opponent with really smooth, good footwork, but their shot failed. And you say, your shot failed, you need to work on that. If you didn't say but your footwork was really good, like the way you approach them, that is the way you're supposed to do it. They might actually change their footwork thinking it's going to change how their shot execution was. It might actually make their footwork worse because they're trying to do something entirely different with something that was working really well. So a more comprehensive, better communication coaching would be more effective there, and by reinforcing the stuff that they did well.
And it reinforced the stuff they almost did well. And I know that sounds kind of goofy.
No, it ain't goofy.
Wow, you did exactly what you were supposed to there. Yeah, but I still got hit. That doesn't matter. Mm-mm. Okay, your timing was off, but 2 days ago you couldn't block a thrust. Now your body is doing the right motions. Just now that's one step closer. Yes, the thrust still got passed, but you brought the shield over, you did the thing, you took the step back, you did everything you were supposed to do. Now you're working on your timing. So it's also the things that you did almost right. You did it 90% of the way right. Well, hell, if you're waiting for 100%, then we'd all be waiting, to get any kind of praise or benefit. I want to know what
Incremental
I'm doing.
gains.
Yeah, I want to
Yep.
know what I'm doing mostly right, so that, okay, I'm mostly doing it right. My body is doing most of the right things, but Bess, you're doing all of this nearly right, but you just got to maybe don't throw from here, come straight. Oh, okay, I can do that, right?
Well,
it could be that one little comment that really
yeah.
helps.
And on that, Bess, if somebody's, if you're fighting, Wrongvalder, and it's like, if you can't hit him, then you're not succeeding, then you're never going to have fun at fight practice.
Right?
So, I mean, there are times I get extremely happy. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, I didn't hit you. I'm like, no, you don't understand. You executed that perfect. You just didn't hit me. What I see is you hitting somebody else.
Yeah. And this actually reminds me of years and years ago, seeing people work on a rising snap, because they would see people get hit by it all the time. And they're like, I need to learn to do that. And I think everybody should. It definitely should be something everybody should know how to throw. And I saw, and I would count myself out. Like, I knew how to throw a pretty good rising snap, but I was getting mixed success with it. And the reason was not how I was throwing it. It was when I was throwing it. If you throw it against somebody who's ready and waiting, it won't work.
Correct.
If you watch for the moment where they decide to go on offense and you throw it, the percentage of success skyrockets. The only difference is nothing to do with what I was doing or what the individual, because I've seen many people go through this exact same curve with it. You have to carefully choose when you throw that, and that's the only difference. Once you know that, then you don't beat yourself up. Well, I was telegraphing. I didn't throw quick enough. I wasn't convincing enough in my shoulder drop or whatever. You're criticizing the wrong things, which if you're self-coaching, can throw you off track, right? Because you're going to go try to fix something that ain't broken. The only thing that's broken is figuring out the correct moment where that shot is going to be its most effective.
So what I'm hearing from you guys a lot is, as we're talking through a lot of these examples and everything else like that, we're back to what we were talking about earlier in goal setting and setting your victory conditions and being able to self-analyze and focus on the positives and have a positive outlook. And so it sounds a lot like how we are defining fun at this point, in at least for the context of where we're at in the conversation, is trying to have a positive outlook on how we're working through this stuff and understand what it is that we're trying to achieve, appreciate where we've come so far through that, and give ourselves credit for that, and still be able to leave room for improvement and recognize the things that we need to improve. And so in that way, I think that you can self-define your fun and be able to see where you're being successful and be able to even if you've had a rough day, there's still something you executed correctly, and be able to be positive about that and build on that. And so I really like how this conversation has gone, for being able to illustrate those points of being able to approach fighting and approach practice from a positive outlook and from a positive mindset, and the benefits that you get from that, and being able to carry you further and be able to continue on that path.
Yeah, and that's a big piece. I'm going to go through a couple things as an individual, the things that you should, again, this is an NCAA list for tennis, realistically. But it pretty much sets the same thing for all players. One is goal setting, which, we covered that, right? Personal motivation, right? Why are you motivated to do the thing you do? And so you needed to define what's the motivation. Practice intensity. Sometimes it's actually pretty hard. Here's an example. I could just go to practice every day and have fun and joke around and goof around and learn nothing. How long is that going to last? Then I might as well just go to a bar and have some beers with that too.
Some people want to do that though, Brannos, and that's okay.
Well, it's okay as long as they're not hurting other people's experience.
Right. Well, I agree with you. But if their goal is to come and to just mostly hang out and socialize and have a time, that's okay. If that's what they want to do, We mustn't take that away from them by telling them they're not serious enough fighters.
No, but and that's not what I said. But what I said is that if that's all you're gonna do, then you're most likely destroying somebody else's practice. So we have to watch. Fun can be negative for others, right?
Well, and you have to accept that if all you're going to do is go and play and hang out and have a good time, you may not improve. And if that's okay for where your goals are, that's fine. But as you said, you don't want to have that impact other people's ability to develop the skills that they want to develop. And so it's good to be conscious of that. And you know, we've talked a bit about a time and place for fun and a time and place for being serious and trying to find that balance point between the two.
Yep.
And that's really what it comes down to, is balance. We were talking in the pre-show, and there was a Crown tournament I was in a couple of years ago that in the semifinals, the two opponents chose weapon styles, and we chose 6-foot spear and sword and buckler, both styles which I enjoy. And when we went out to fight, I slipped into play mode. I wasn't in the serious fighting mode anymore, and I ended up eliminated from the tournament at that point. And so one of the things that came away from that, and that's where Brannos is telling me, you know, winning is fun too. And so I'm gonna put you on the spot here, Brannos. Countess Alicia made this to put inside my shield after that tournament. to basically, for a reminder of when you're in the tournament, when you're in that competition, that's the time to be serious. And winning that tournament or being successful in that tournament, fighting to the best of your ability, is how you're defining fun in that moment. Or at least for me, that's how I was defining fun in that moment. And coming away, I look at that tournament 2 years ago. Was I having fun? Yes, and I lost, and that's fine. I look at the tournament I fought in on Saturday. Was I having fun? Yes. I didn't feel like I slipped into play mode at all in the tournament. I still ended up losing the tournament, but I still come away from it. I don't think I had any less fun than I did in the tournament that I slipped into play mode. And so that's kind of where that idea of defining your goals and defining your victory conditions comes into play. And being able to go into the fight and execute is what I was defining as my goals for that day. And for the most part, I was able to do that. It's just that my opponent was able to do it better.
Yep. So, you know, here's a couple more for folks. So they talk about imaginary skills. In other words, what they're talking about is visualization. So something real important is visualization. And we talk about a pre-workout portion, and Tristan's going to cover some of that too, the pre-fight portion of this. But visualization is part of that, could be part of that process. And also visualization helps you see what you do the right way and build confidence and build, you know, concentration on what you're doing. Positive self-talk. That's a pretty easy one. Positive body language. And that sounds funny. It's like, what do you mean by positive body language? But what that means is you're out there and you're confident in what you're going to do. If you're out there slumped and you're looking down at the ground, and that you're going to many times you are going to do how you look or feel. And so you need to go out there and be positive mentally and physically. There's the confidence and composure. I mean, obviously, there's probably a complete episode on confidence at some point we have to do. Because you want to be the top in a game. I was just listening to Michael Jordan. He's like, there's a number of other people I know that were just as good as me. The difference was confidence. Right. And so, you know, and you know, he actually brought a lot of that to his team, even though they didn't want it. Concentration and routine and stress management and sportsmanship, you know, all of these are things that this is not the coach's job. The coach's job is to help you with those things, but these are things that you need to bring yourself to help build fun and learn at the same time. So there was one that's in here, and and let's just talk about it because it's funny it made the list, and I didn't even bring it up in the list here. There's a couple of pieces I didn't. Pre-match preparation. What do you think they mean by that?
Who's that question for?
Matt, M-A-T.
So, and any of you, I mean, you know, that's the piece is like pre-match preparation. So
Match.
before you go into a match, I guess, you know, how do you, you know, this is part of the thing you have to learn to do. Do you have a pre-match, you know, before you start? I mean, actually, Tristan actually said that when I'm putting on my armor, that is kind of his pre-match preparation. Bess, what do you have something? Putting you on the spot, ain't I?
No. I think of how I've been in tournaments, and I think about how I am in melees at big melees at Pennsic, and I get laser focused. I'm not there to screw around. I'm not there. I have a job to do, and I'm going to do my job.
Is there something that you're doing to get you there?
After all these years, I have to kind of, well, there's a kind of goofy thing I do at Pennsic. Yeah. So I'll tell you all the stupid, goofy thing at Pennsic that I do. I pretend I'm a medieval knight, and I walk out on the field, and I turn my sword upside down, kind of like it would be a cross, and I just stop, and I have a little conversation with the universe. You can call it a prayer, you can call it whatever you want, and I mostly ask the universe to help me keep my friends alive and to help me do a good job and to not screw up. That's what I can't believe I'm telling you guys that.
That's awesome,
but that's
Beth.
what I do for Melee. That's what I do for Pennsic, which is my love. Before every battle, I just sort of put it out to the universe. It's like, this is my goal. I am stating my goal. My goal is to keep my friends alive. My goal is to not screw up. And my goal is to support my team or my friends. And at practice, whether when we're going out to a tournament, again, it's very much the same thing. I put out to the universe how I would like to do, and I don't focus on what I don't want. Damn it, I knew you were going to say that. going to say that. But when I put it out, if I'm doing my own stuff, I put it out the stuff that I want to do, not the stuff that I don't want to do. I don't want to put out any negatives. I want to block well. I want to keep my friends alive. Not, I don't want to screw up. I don't want to get my friends killed.
Bess, you nailed it. You just talked about the whole episode. We just covered all of this shit, right?
That's what I do.
I know. I mean, I think that's great. I mean, you know, Masashi would be proud of you. You should write a book.
Think on this well. Study this well.
And I'm going to say, like, and I shouldn't be. I'm kind of embarrassed. But it's part of my pre-match, my pre-game ritual.
No.
I don't suppose anybody, like, it helps me, right? So it doesn't matter how goofy it is if it helps you. But I gotta admit, I'm kind of embarrassed saying all that I do woo-woo stuff out loud.
Just a reminder.
Things have done wrong, Walter. You're a pal. Oh my God! Can somebody else talk now, please?
Yeah, I mean, sure, Bess. I'll bail you out. The pre-match ritual that I have, I want to try and make the tournament as routine as possible. And in order to do that, I do the same warm up at tournaments that I do at practice. I do stretching and I do footwork drills, and so I make that routine that I do at practice the same routine I do at tournaments to be able to help prepare for that, and to be able to just make the entire experience of fighting in the tournament the same routine that I do at practice, and get myself in the same mindset that I have at practice of just doing the thing and not making it something that is nerve-rattling and everything else. So it really helps me be able to be focused on the moment and stay in the moment of the fight, because I'm just doing the same things that I've done before, and you don't feel crushed under the weight of the enormity of the what if I win this tournament. That's for later. Just staying focused on what I'm doing in that moment.
No, I think that's perfect. So I took, and just so people, there was a little bit of talk about it. I forgot who brought this up, but they brought up breathing. Actually, I think that might have been Tristan. So you brought up breathing as, one of the ways you center or calm yourself, get out of that mode. It's very interesting. In another of the NCAA videos that they actually had some videos on the site, which was interesting. They talked about breathing methods, and they actually had specifically a breathing method. They talked about breathing in, taking essentially a 3 count on your breath in through your nose, 4 count on your way out. And if anybody remembers, a number of years ago, we posted something on box breathing, same thing that the SEALs do. All of those things are made to help focus you at the thing you're trying to do well. Try to clear your mind of all that negativity around you, all that baggage you kind of carry in with you. And I think, Tristan, that's what you were trying to cover. You're like, you do that and that baggage falls away. And then you're singly mind focused, right?
Correct. I think these, whether you call it a pre-fight ritual or a, some kind of a focusing thing, what it is a meditation. And all meditation is you trying to manage your mind and not let it run away with you to try to, minimize the stress. I tried what most people envision when you say meditation is, sitting still.
No,
you're not moving in your brain. Now it's you just managing what your thoughts are and whatnot. That never worked for me, but I did come across a phrase that really did resonate, and that's called moving meditation.
Moving meditation. Yep.
And this is what people who are woodworkers, who are musicians, they sit down with their instrument or their tools, and whatever it is they're doing, that is their meditation. They're moving their hands, and then of course, my wife is a physiopath. She's been in, kind of a healer for a long, long time. She uses the term movement as medicine, and that's very, very common. And I feel that not only is movement physical medicine, it's mental medicine. Mm-hmm. And so while the static, no body moving meditation doesn't work for me, I realize it does work for other people. But I like a moving meditation. To me, fighting is a moving meditation.
I agree 100%.
It begins with the movements of for me, the movements of taking my armor out of the bag, the movements of me putting on my armor, because it's the same every time I, go through step to step to step, because it's layered. You can't just decide what order you put your armor on. It's different every time. It doesn't work that way. So those movements, the stretching, whatever footwork drills you get, in Aikido, the lineage that I have is through Koichi Tohei, and one of his big things is he referred to his Aikido as the unification of mind and body. That's what it's primarily focused on. If you boil it down, SCA fighting is exactly the same way at the highest level. You can't have your mind and your body doing kind of two different things. They can't even be a little different. They have to be 100% focused on the same thing. And it's fairly easy for the body to do as it's been directed. It's much harder for us to have our mind do as we want it to do, because there are so many distractions. There's so much, like we talked about earlier, baggage that comes in. You're thinking about the past, you're thinking about the future, you're thinking about possibilities, you're thinking about all of these different things. And that's what the meditation is meant to do, is lock those out and focus on what you need to do right now, and to get as granular as possible. Like what Guillaume said is, you can't think about the last fight. That may have been 30 seconds ago. You cannot think about 30 seconds into the future. You have to think about this 3 to 4 seconds. That's it. That's as granular as your mental focus can be, right? And so it's that mental meditation part, that movement, that to me it encapsulates when it's going right. Your mind and your body are moving together in a laser straight line in the exact same direction. And when they're a little off, or they cross and weave, and that's where you start having, oh no, I'm not having such a good day. My body isn't doing what my mind wants it to do, or vice versa. They're not working together. So, and people have had countless different of those little rituals. Even just saluting your consort, to some, that's the only ritual they need, is salute for the honor for one who you fight this day, and they do that, and it's like, that's boom, they locked in. Mind and body are going the same direction. That's all they need. Other people are doing rituals for a week before the tournament. They're all working up, and they do whatever they need to do to relax their mind, and it's different for everybody. But it's there. It has to be there. in my opinion.
Yeah, no, and we talked about this. There's lots of ways. You just have to be careful with rituals sometimes, because if you don't get the chance to do it, just be aware that sometimes your ritual has
the bigger and more elaborate they are, the more they can go off the rails.
That's correct.
and not work out for you.
Right. So, if somebody, and I'm just going to kind of post this one, or somebody brought this up, playing the same songs. Songs tend to be a lot of way people do pre-ritual stuff. It's interesting because this is more on a overall practice. You don't have to be a coach. You don't have to be the person. You need to be the person running the practice, essentially. And here's some things they talked about. Help your athletes be realistic at practice. That's a little bit more coachy. Foster some challenges at practice. In other words, have them compete with people at the same levels. Maybe, say, hey, who's interested in fighting bastard sword? Let's do a little bit of bastard sword work, so that now you have this competitive environment that two people who don't do it a lot get to do it, right? And so you're fostering that competitive feel. And it was interesting because they said integrate music into the drills that you do. So, I found this one interesting because we had music practice at the same time we had regular practice or fight practice. And I had a number of people come to me and it's so cool when they're playing music while you're fighting. It's just, it helps you kind of zone out of the rest of the world with this medieval music playing, and you're just in your atmosphere, right? So it's that clearing of the head. So it was funny. I wasn't going to bring it up until Stefan brought it up here. But so I thought, oh, you know what? I'm going to bring that up because it really fits.
On that point, one of the best times I ever had fighting, and some of my best fighting ever, was the Torchlight tourney down at Lily's War, and they had that guy is from the Outlands, the drumming Laurel. He had these big kettle drums, and he'd bring them out and he'd play like during a Torchlight tourney in the dark, and those drums were pounding away, and he was getting faster and faster as the fight went on. That was amazing. Yeah. One of my favorite experiences ever.
Focuses you in, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. Oh boy, howdy.
And then they also talk, and here, Bess, this one's for you. They said, have a sense of humor and foster laughter. So
yep, I agree with that one, 100%.
I support that.
Yep. And, this is what they're talking about, what you need at practice. Last piece I thought was very interesting. It says, set 5-10 minutes aside of practice to just have fun and let your athletes choose what they want to do. So that could be set 5-10 minutes and don't coach. Don't you guys go have some fun. I know you're focusing on this thing. Go back and pick up buckler and have a little bit of fun. Pick up something different. If you guys want to have a dagger fight, just go do it.
Yeah, Barry mentioned about the drummer. I don't remember, unfortunately, his name, but he was very famed from the Outlands. Just an incredible drummer, and yeah, it was one of the coolest experiences ever.
All right. Well, we kind of nailed it, folks. I mean, we went through a lot of stuff there. I put a question out to all the coaches tonight and said, you think you can do it in 45 minutes? Everyone's like, really? We have to do it in 45 minutes? We are listening to you. I think in a way we enjoy what we do here like this. It's relatively easy for us. And we apologize. It's not always on target. And it's long, but and it may change. But I'm also trying to make sure that we're going to kind of put some more. Barry's been doing this 100 video thing. I think we're going to add a little bit of that routine into at least the discussion stuff. We may even just present it as a show in the video itself. I have a couple of things coming up this week that are going to get posted out there. One of them is shorter. It was an old video of me teaching Kaid. So we are listening to you. We have a number of ideas. I've been trying to capture them and put them down on episodes and trying to kind of tap people on the shoulder to get episodes done. If you're interested and have done, are interested in doing an episode on something that you're good at, reach out to me or Tristan or Bess or Guillaume, any of the coaches, and say, hey, even if you're uncomfortable, say, I'm interested. I think I have a lot of information on this and I'd like to do it, because you'll have coaches join you and help you through that first process. And we're always looking for people that have interesting content. So this show's for everybody. It's not just for us, although I get more out of it than everyone because, I enjoy it so much. But and we're also working on, I have a number of other people like Gabe and a few of those younger guys that have been winning crowns and that are second generation that are starting to put together an idea of some episodes that hopefully you'll see coming at you coming soon here too. So, and then our next piece will be we had a meeting about equipment and content and things like that. So we're still working on that idea. And if we're going to keep trying to add more content, I know Tristan was kind of trying to put something together himself. So we're gonna keep trying to work this way. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Great conversation here tonight. I'm sure you guys all agree online. The comments were really, really good. And had some
great comments tonight. Everybody,
yeah,
that was wonderful.
I'm telling you. But I think we're gonna wrap it up and say good night and thank you all for joining us. And we hope to see you soon. We'll probably have another episode in about 2 weeks, unless something comes up quicker. So for now,
have a good night, everybody.
Stay safe this weekend. Have some fun.